Bonet. Is it you? Do you call yourself photojournalist or?
Yeah, photographer, photojournalist, filmmaker, whatever you wanna, rock and roll addict.
Ja, ham skal vi snakke med her de næste timer omkring lidt af hvad han går og laver, og han er medlem af NOOR. Hvad er NOOR som størrelse, og så Z-serie kamera, så vi kommer her. Skal vi snakke om det. Mr. Bonet, can you tell me a little about yourself?
Well, I'm Pep from Mallorca. I am a photographer, and lately, last 6 years, I have more focused as a filmmaker. I'm a founding member of NOOR Images, an agency which was founded 11 years ago, and a Nikon ambassador. And yeah, I'm a photographer, also photojournalist, trying to cover issues. I would say my main work is on issues and human rights, and that's what we do on NOOR, try to shine the light in the darkest places on earth.
So you said human rights. So
yeah.
You're trying to actually show where human rights isn't taken seriously.
Yeah, well, I try to shine a bit the light. I mean, we live in a very unbalanced world, as you know for sure, and most of the times the people that are suffering the consequences of the ones that are abusing power are the ones that are less heard. And that's the job we do. We try to highlight those issues, we try to make them obvious, we try to that people can at least have information, and the persons that can bring change then are aware of these things.
How many members are you on now?
I think now we are about 15. We lost Stanley Green last year. He's also one of the founding members. And I can say something that I'm very proud of is that NOOR is the only agency in the world where we have the same amount of men and women. So gender equality for us is very important. I think women bring a lot of positive things on the table, and we're proud and happy to have such a well-balanced group. Not only men, women, but also representations from all the continents.
I'm just trying to formulate my question. I had it in my mind.
No worries.
Yeah, I try to tell stories myself, just playing photography. I find it very difficult to find I have a lot of stories I want to tell, but it's difficult to honing in on what I'm actually going to. How do you manage that part?
A lot of people ask me this question, because a lot of people don't know how you follow a story. What should be a story about? I always say the same thing. 95% that story you will be successful in telling it is if you have faith in it, if you believe in it, if you're motivated, if you're obsessed about it, if it takes your sleep away. Then you're on the right track. When I have a story that I have to shoot or I'm planning to shoot, and it doesn't move me, it right away gets out of the question. For me, what is important is that the story I'm about to unfold. First, I would like to mention one word which is very important and relevant for my work: underground. I like my stories to be a bit underground, unnoticed, unknown. When I discovered the Botswana heavy metal scene, people were like, how did you find it, So this is what I like, I consider myself a bad journalist because I hardly ever do research. So basically I like to go places without preconceived ideas. I don't like to take criteria of other people and put them into my work. So as soon as you Google about story or about a place, you're already reading preconceived ideas. And I think that is a mistake. I like to arrive into places with little information, and that means that whatever information I get on the ground makes me excited, and I hear it from the persons and the people on the ground, the ones I'm going to photograph. Because I find it very frustrating, when a writer of a magazine, of an editorial, where the directors are sitting in their offices in Paris or New York, and they say, okay, that's the story, that's the angle. A journalist has written the story already, and you have to go and cover those photos. What if that story is not the story I'm going to be experiencing? So basically, what I want to say is, I don't believe in the objective journalism. I believe in the subjective journalism. I believe in the power of a person to bring you the same story with a different eyes, in a different way. There are no new stories anymore, but new approaches. And this is what motivates me, This is what moves me, telling the same story in a different way. and spend long enough that you become a specialist about the story, that you can defend that story because you've been part of it, you lived for it, you've been taking sides. I know journalists shouldn't be taking sides, but if I go in a situation and someone is beating another one, then I know where I'm standing. And that's very important for me, to know where I'm standing. And then once I know my position, I can start developing my storytelling and the narrative. But basically, I like the underground stories, and I'm very challenged by the aesthetics of various story. I don't like repeating my aesthetics. I don't like to use the aesthetics of the contrasted black and white photography that I started in Sierra Leone 20 years ago. So I like to renew myself. I like to try new cameras. I like to try new ways of doing things. So it's a non-stop learning process for me, because as long as I know how to do something, it starts to become boring when I don't have a challenge. So, yeah.
So you more or less you have an idea and then just follow it and see what it takes.
Yeah, no, I mean, also, there is also the access and logistics, You have to sometimes collaborate with people, When you are on the ground and you are in a land that doesn't belong to you and it's not your culture and you don't know, you don't understand how to move around. So we always try to work with features, try to work with an open mind, and try to, that's why I think it's very interesting to know the history of photography. We teach a lot at NOOR, we have the Nikon NOOR Academy, and a lot of photographers don't know the history of photography. Not even the history, don't even know the actual photographers working now, And I think that is a mistake, because you might have an idea and say, okay, that's so brilliant, and then maybe your idea has been done and redone 100 times and better than you've done it. So I think it's very important to understand and to know the history of photography, because that challenges yourself to do something which hasn't been done or approach things in a different way. And at the end of the day, there has to be a lot of yourself in your photography. That's what I like. I like the photography which is personal. I like the photography which is emotional. And to make photography emotional, that means you have to live those emotions in order to express them. You have to be sensitive. You have to love people. You have to love what you do. You have to. And when you're covering issues and human rights violations, you become hurt for a lot of the things. And that's something good. I can be objective to the pain of other people. I can be. It hurts me, and it's good. That means I am human. I am a person, I am a photographer too, yeah. But first I'm human, And for me, understanding the pain of other people and feeling it inside of me makes me first a better person, and second, I guess, a better photographer, because I can experience and try to share those emotions.
Super. Sounds really, really interesting. Especially because this area I try to work around also, but entirely different than what it is. If we take the new Z-series you've been shooting with, is there any special features you like more than the other?
Yeah, well, the Z7, I have to say that when I grabbed it for the first time, I thought this is not a new camera. I grabbed it, said the menu is the same. It has a hand grip. It has an electronic viewfinder. Okay, let's see how that works. And when I started shooting with it, I was like amazed. The fact that we don't have a mirror makes camera shake less prominent. So that means you can shoot at half a second and still have super sharp on handheld images. The fact that the camera is very light and very small compared to a DSLR, it makes my day easier, because sometimes when I work like places like Wacken Open Air, where I work 12 hours uploading photos into Instagram, that means I work many, many hours. So the fact to have a light camera is really convenient. Also the fact that the camera, I work as a photographer and filmmaker, and sometimes I work next to filmmakers or they work next to me. The fact that I have a totally silent shutter, that is something that is a game changer for me. Because when you're doing films, and there is a sound person, and you keep on hearing that camera blasting and that mirror going up and down, it becomes annoying, you know, because you can hear it. So the fact that this camera is totally silent, if you want to, it's something that I really like. And the low light sensibility, all of these things. I mean, I didn't know if I was gonna like an electronic viewfinder because I'm used to the optical viewfinders, but when I look at it and I shot it for the first time, I realized the big advantage. I work a lot on aperture priority. I like to shoot like wide open or almost wide open. And when you half press the shutter, you can see on the viewfinder exactly how your picture is going to look like. So it's very easy. It's very easy to photograph nowadays, you know. And especially in difficult situations of low light, like backstage concert with, you know, light coming against the camera, and with the electronic viewfinder, it's very easy to work. Those are the things I think I can mention. Also the fact that the camera has a HDMI output, 10 bits, is also something really interesting. Me working as a photographer and filmmaker, I like to use the same camera for both. Then I have the same aesthetics in the stills and the same aesthetics in the video. So in this matter is also, I think, is very, very nice. The fact that the screen is tilting, that you can move the screen, is also beneficial. And they have these new lenses that I tried, and they have no breathing. So when you're focusing from the foreground to the background and things like that, the breathing is minimal. The fact that also the camera when you're using the LCD has a very good autofocus. For the first time, I've seen a photo camera with the autofocus you can really use. So you can select a point and you move the camera little by little, and you know, it's tracking your subject very well. So in certain situations, I always like to work in manual focus, especially in more cinematographic productions. But I can imagine situations where you're following someone and you really want to not get distracted by the in focus, out of focus. It is a very good possibility to have it. Also the fact that we're having the new lenses which have VR, vibration reduction, combined with a mirrorless mechanism and a stabilization system, those three things makes the camera super steady in low light situation. So it's not only about the high ISO capabilities, it's about the magic of these three things happening at the same time, which gives you a totally new world of possibilities.
So it sounds like it actually affected your workflow to be able to add the Z-series also?
Not the workflow, but yes, the possibilities of, for example, night photography. The workflow keeps on being the same, you know. I mean, what I like is also snap bridge. So every photo I shoot on my camera ends up in my phone. So it makes my life easier when I want to, you know, do some social media or when I'm doing Instagram takeovers.
Just to say snap bridge. So you constantly are syncing from snap bridge to your phone, or do you manually?
I do them all. If the assignment is, I mean, if I'm working for a client, like I did a CD cover a couple of weeks ago. They wanted black and white, so I was shooting drawing camera, and I did a JPEG in black and white, and everything was sent to my phone. So that means when you finish your session and you're having a beer with your client, you can start, or your iPad or your phone, whatever you decide, you can start showing the work already. You know? So people have an idea. It's very convenient.
It makes it much faster.
Yeah. Yes.
When and why did you translate from only stills to video?
When the Nikon D90 appeared.
Okay, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah, all of a sudden that camera could shoot video. So we have to try this. And I got totally hooked on it. I got very enthusiastic, and I even asked a sabbatical year out of NOOR for me to study a bit filmmaking. I studied self-taught filmmaking, and I studied a bit of sound. I invested in equipment, especially in microphones and camera movement, tripods, monopods. I mean, it's not the same. I mean, in photography, as long as you know how to photograph and spend long enough in a place, and then you start editing, and you know, with a very good edit, you can make magic. in filmmaking, if you don't know what you want to talk about, and you don't have a bit of a more clear angle, it's more difficult to do storytelling, you know, and it's more complicated, it's more expensive, it requires teamwork, which for me is a good thing. But the teamwork is not always possible on the field, especially when you're shooting sensitive subjects or places that are difficult access or where you can be noticed. So yeah, I think in these 6-7 years of making films, I learned a lot of, you know, what teamwork, you know, the work of a producer, the work of an editor, you know. So if possible, I like to work with the team so I can focus on directing or photographing or shooting the video or doing sound. I don't mind, you know, I think I can do those 3 things properly by now. Yeah, but I also like the stories that sometimes require only one-man band to do, because you have access is limited and you have to become invisible, you know. So in that matter, I also like those underground films where you afterwards sit with the producer and an editor and make the magic happen.
Sounds good. It's just so interesting. So I'm just listening. Tan, do you have any questions for us? I think we have all we need.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome, man.
Pleasure.